Welcome to the Automaticist.
Hello, welcome back to Byte of Minecraft. Today we are going to be finishing what we started on the Brevegs building. So I believe that I have neglected to mention in the past couple of times the situation and sort of what's going on, what is in this universe, in this city. Where is it? What is it? And why is everything the way it is? So, my book is set in this country called Kaban. It's actually far future and it is a constitutional monarchy. The title of the monarch is Savaka, and essentially what's gone on is there are a bunch of colonies, and originally there were 24 colonies, and because of that they were able to give them the names of the Greek letters. So there's one for each Greek letter, essentially. And so this is Omega, the furthest away from Kaban. So they made a grid, essentially. It was like an 8x3 grid. And they just labeled them. And they weren't expected to grow very quickly, but they did, because people like to live in certain areas. So yeah, that's a thing. So this world is set in the city of West Circle, and that's the capital of Omega. And that's why there's all these government buildings, because, well, it's a capital city. That's where you put government buildings. So that's what's going on there. Or rather, here. And then, of course, there's this notion that although technically the Savaka of Kaban has theoretically absolute powers, he or she, depending on which specific book you're talking about, does not use them or should not be using them. That would be a sign that something is seriously wrong. Generally, they're considered theoretical powers, or they're considered not to be used unless necessary, somewhat of emergency powers. That's what I was going to say. But then in my first book, there's actually a civil war because the Savaka is using too many powers, and then we have that whole play out, and that's really the first time in this timeline that we see a lot of that sort of action. We get more of fighting against absolutism as a main theme of a lot of the books. So if I ever actually write the books, you'll see that as a large theme in that universe. Is they're trying to get rid of authoritarianism and actually put up a sort of mixed philosophy. So it's basically what I imagine, what I believe, and have come to develop and believe, sort of. And I call it automaticism because it stresses the importance of automating most work so that everybody can be both like wealthy and not have to work for it. And basically the concept there is that if I, let's say, own a factory and I just have robots running all of the machines and being all of the machines, then I don't need to do essentially anything. All I need to really do is run the factory and do the administrative stuff, and that's something that I can do. And then all the people that would normally do the manufacturing of the actual whatever it is that my factory produces, those people can instead be the boss at another factory. So you could have, let's say, 100 factories all producing different things, whereas instead you would have had to have one factory with one boss and 99 workers. So I see it as a more efficient system and a utopia, because in this version everyone is like rich and robots just work for everybody. And so what's nice is that's still humane because they're robots. As long as you make sure that robots do not ever have feelings, ever, then you can have a free and equal society in which there's basically a situation where nobody has any sort of lacking. Everybody has as much as they could possibly ever want or use or need. And I have deemed that situation to be a utopia. Now, one thing that it requires, of course, is we have to go into space. We have to explore and acquire more and more resources because we don't have enough on our own planet, and we are definitely running out of resources here on Earth. So we have to start taking stuff from Mars and taking stuff from the moon and the asteroid belt and whatnot. Now, one solution that I think would be great is essentially to use pseudo solar power. And what I mean by that is it's not just straight up like turning solar power into electricity like we have today, but I mean like the sun is free, right? Free, hopefully forever. And I think that because of that, we can use the sun's energy, which is just putting out, and essentially is just being wasted by going into the universe, right? It's not doing anything. So we could just use all that, or not even all of it. Just use the sun's energy, E equals mc squared, generate new resources, and there we go. When we can build our own resources just by having the sun, it's sort of a reverse nuclear fuel, I feel like that would be a really great situation if we're doing it responsibly. Difficult? Yes. Impossible? No. That's what I would say about that. And I would say that if we really put our minds to it collectively, I think that we can get there, where we have basically an unlimited energy supply right in our astronomical backyard, so to say. But I think that if we can harness the power of the sun through stuff like wind power, maybe at first, because that does come from the sun. You know, wind is generated by essentially the heat and currents and such. It's all from the sun, and so we can use that. We can power our civilization basically forever, because we just have the capability, not quite yet, but we will have the capability, I think reasonably soon, to basically just completely be reliant on various pseudo-solar power. And I think that if we're using that to power our civilization, we can be like immortal. Well, not immortal, literally immortal, but as in like we can build anything with our technology. We think our technology is good now. Wait until like at some point I'll be like an old man and we'll just have all sorts of stuff that we can't even imagine yet. And we need to anticipate that, and we need to expect technology to get better because it always does. So as I'm building this in Minecraft, I'm thinking there should be a way to perhaps program an AI that figures out what these staircases look like and essentially get to a point where the AI is just going to build this for me. I'm just going to sit there and do nothing, come back tomorrow, and it'll just be fine. Now, we don't have that yet. It isn't readily available yet, but I think that, just within a couple of years, AI is going to get to the point where I can just download a Minecraft AI that builds what I tell it to build, and it's just going to work. There's already this thing that I found today. It's an AI that writes music, and you can actually pick a lot of customizations. So you can decide that it's going to be Chinese music. You can decide that it's going to sound like Bach. And it's called AVA, A-I-V-A. It stands for like artificial intelligence, virtual something. It's like composition. I think that that's a really great thing because, someday somebody that doesn't necessarily have the biggest budget in the world can get music written for them for free because robots don't cost anything but electricity to run. And it can just be a really great experience, and it might not be like the most professional, but maybe one day it could be. And if it's as good as the best human or better, then it's a success in my eyes. And professionals should look to a robot for that task. For example, manufacturing cars has already reached that point where the best robots are better at manufacturing cars than the best people. And so that's why robots build cars. Now, some high-end car brands like to claim all of their hand-built, handmade stuff and gets like this personal care. And here's the thing about like personal attention and care. It's not necessary. The majority of people, as we can see, aren't willing to fork over the extra cash that goes into somebody's pocket. And instead, now that we have that automated, those people that aren't working those jobs, what are they doing? Well, they're maybe going to college, or they're doing some other thing. And the more jobs we automate, the closer we get to that reality of nobody has to work, yet everyone is rich. I think like that just sounds incredible, right? If you said, hey, I'll make you rich, I'll get you $300,000 a year that isn't taxed, you do absolutely nothing, you'd be like, really? I don't even think you believe that, because that is just a really great offer. You just think, gee, what did I do to earn that? And then say, oh, you won a contest. Or what if they say, oh, it's because you are born in 2040 and that's how the world is now. What if that's that soon? What if it could be like that, where like just not too long from now people are just born and you're rich automatically because robots work for you? I think that would be a great world to live in, right? That's what we really want deep down inside, is material gain. You know, we try to say that we don't. We try to keep saying, oh, money isn't everything. But deep down inside of us, we have this instinct that we don't want to fight. And it's to try and accumulate as many resources as possible in order to survive. That's the root of it. But then in order to thrive and have an advantage, so you can survive even more. And by that, afford more children. It's just in us, it's an instinct. And I think that it's wrong to fight instincts unless our instincts are going to be harmful. But I see this as being something that can only be positive. Because once everyone's rich enough, there's no need for greed and lust and such. Because once you have it all, that's it. You have it all. And once everyone does, there's no need to say, oh, I have this better than you and that better than you. There will still be that. There will still be, I wish I had these skills, I wish I had those skills. But I think that if we can move towards something like just accepting, hey, I'm good at this, and maybe that's not your thing, and you're good at that, and maybe that's not my thing. I think that's a really good goal to strive for. And I think that we aren't going to have the easiest time of that until we basically move forward with technology to the point where we can all be well off. I'm not going to put an exact dollar amount on that. First of all, inflation is a constant thing. And so I don't know that we could trust numbers that I'm saying here in 2019 to accurately reflect the world in whatever year this technology comes out and enables all of this automation. And I know people often look at automation as a bad thing. They say, oh, people are just going to be unhealthy. I think that the way we're viewing automation is the way that we've kind of just take capitalism as a given, the way that it currently works, and we just say, hey, this is gonna break our system, that's why it's not good. But if we kind of accept, hey, maybe we're not designing a perfect system because, once again, we're just people, right? Maybe an entirely new economic system can come about once all this automation happens. And, you know, one big argument that I hear a lot is, oh, people are just going to get out of shape because they are, like, not working. And I'm sitting here in my very comfortable chair, not really moving. I'm pressing some keys on my keyboard and clicking on my mouse just to play Minecraft. I'm thinking, I am not getting any physical exercise whatsoever from playing Minecraft. I know that I can fly with my Elytra, my virtual flight, and go super fast, but I'm not moving physically. I'm in a chair that hasn't moved at all, even though it has wheels. It's a really interesting sort of concept, is that we don't really do a lot of physical activity anymore. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of jobs that do, but there's so many that don't. And I think that, you know, ultimately, like, as long as we're healthy enough and comfortable in our body images, that as long as it doesn't like actually detrimental to us. And I know that if you're seriously overweight, it can be detrimental to you. That it's not really the biggest concern. And I think that's another thing that sort of maybe has to go, is this sense that I always have to look better than that, person that I saw on the internet. And I'm not going to say like a certain category of person, but I'm just going to say like we do that so much. We say, oh, I want to look like this, or I think that this objective, and yet not in the slightest way objective beauty standard is something that I should adhere to. And people will take that and they'll be like, all right, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this unhealthy thing. And then you think, why? And it's because you just like want to adhere to some sort of arbitrary standard that was not exactly invented a long time ago. Most fashion things, most beauty standards come and go rather quickly, especially in terms of evolution. Just think about that. So, I think that we could do a lot of good if we decided collectively that we are going to stop trying to make some impossible standard for others to follow just because I'm good at this one thing, or just because I am naturally subjectively beautiful that's turned into almost objectively beautiful. Not me personally, but there's some people, and then in trying to market something like that, I don't think that that is worthwhile. I think that people could be doing a lot better stuff with their time than trying to market appearance. Now, obviously, like, it doesn't have to go all the way to like, oh, everyone and anyone can just now be a slop. I don't think that that's really okay either, because it's important to care, right? But it's important also not to obsess and not to go after something that's just going to die before you do. Like, in all seriousness, like, if we really think about it, like, you don't really have to think about it, but we're at the point now where fashion barely stays for a decade. And, I can keep saying, of course, that that's not a good thing, but it's really about the why. Why do we do this? Why do we do X, Y, and Z? And if it's because of something deep in us, if it's related to that desire to have more or be better than somebody else, then let's each be better in our own way, right? You can create a game that everyone wins and no one can agree on who wins. If you try really, really hard. Because if I can say, I like this, and it's some weird thing that maybe 98% of other people will dislike, that's fine. And maybe most things are actually like that, where a very small minority at first will be the group that says, I like this. And then the thing is, those people will be rich, or they will be powerful, or both. And because they are rich, or they are powerful, or they are both, they'll spread whatever message they want to spread, and the rest of us don't have that sort of power, right? I, as just a small creator just starting out on YouTube, don't have the power to do something like, I don't know, like invent a meme that becomes a real popular thing, right? So that's one thing, is that power is concentrated in the hands of so few right now, and it's all sorts of power. So maybe we just need to say, hey, power will always be concentrated in the hands of the few, but all of us can be part of some sort of few. We're all elite something, right? As I have said in the past, I don't believe by any standard that I am the smartest kid in my class. That honor belongs to somebody that I most likely don't really know very well. It used to belong to one of my good friends. She looked like she was going to be the valedictorian, but that's not the case anymore. And I said, hey, I'm not necessarily trying to be one of the smartest in my class. It's not a realistic goal for me. But I would say that for my age, at least, I am one of the wisest, at least in my class. And I would define that as being different in that you're wise if you're able to, let's say, think critically and deeply about a wide variety of topics, and you're smart if you're able to just memorize textbook data, and you're really good at that. I would say both skills are valuable. I would say that I just have a specialty, and we should all have a specialty. We're all unique. We're all special. And it's really interesting to think about all these different things and all these different aspects coming together. And I think that if we can perhaps all embrace who we are uniquely, you know, if you're really good at visual art, then be amazing at visual art. I would say there's a large part of our society that we've built up that isn't necessarily conducive to that. And a lot of the time, stuff like being good at certain things is frowned upon. And I think that really needs to change in our world if we want to move forward towards a utopia. And I'd like to see us definitely move towards a utopia, and to do so efficiently. Because if we can get a utopia, let's say in 2200, that's so far in the future, right? I'll be dead. We'll all be dead. And we don't want that, right? If we could make a change, and maybe instead of 2200, it's 2270, or it's 2175, that we're able to have a utopia worldwide, let's do that. If we can make it 2150, 2100 even, that would be so much the better. And maybe it won't even take that long. I'm just taking a wild guess. It's really like, we've come so far, let's keep going, but let's accelerate. You know, the recent changes in technology have been like anything that's ever happened before. We had the Industrial Revolution. That was cool and all. But this is different because these machines that we're creating now are so incredibly powerful that I don't think that there will be much work left for us humans to do except top level things. And of course, not everyone wants to be in academics, and I get that. Not everyone wants to go through the rigorous multiple years of high level education. And so to those people I say, live the life. Go on, follow your dream, and everyone can become a leader in something. It might not be something I would choose. It might not even be something that is considered desirable by today's standards. But do it and do it well. Follow your passion. And if you truly follow your passion, your unique passion, and maybe it doesn't exist yet, maybe you have to create it and you have to really think. I believe that everyone can be successful. And by successful, I do not mean wealthy. I mean happy, healthy, good family, good life. And I would say that nothing is ever complete. There is only the latest revision.